Hello again. It's Reimmerse. We're back for month 2 now. 2 months fully complete. Pretty exciting. Um, I have a different microphone this time, and so hopefully the audio is a little better. I'm always trying to improve the quality. So what the format of this month's going to look like, and I'm going to try to stick to this format for the coming months. First of all, I'm moving the videos to the first of the month, just because it's kind of a nice number and it kind of worked out where after 60 days, it's the first. And then so for in the video, I'm going to have kind of sections on different areas. So for example, like immersion, reading, vocab, and these might change between months if I add listening or speaking or get rid of Anki at some point down in the far future. And then for each section, I'm going to recap the last month's goals. So just for this month, I didn't set any last month, so I'm just going to kind of do a summary of where I was at. And I'm going to talk about my progress during that month. And then I'm going to set a short-term goal for the next month. And then at the end, I'm going to do kind of a long-term recap and track my long-term progress kind of in total. And there's always going to be timestamps as needed, so feel free to skip around to the parts you're interested in. So starting with immersion. So last month, where I was at was I was watching like a K-pop video and some of the Taione podcasts a day, sometimes with English subs. And then I had just started reading this TTMIK book. And I rewatched last month's video, and I had said that I had just kind of read either the first or the first and second story, and it was very, very difficult, and I only knew like 30% of the words. Well, it's been a month, and I finished this book, and it feels really, really good. I went through it in stages. So I would like read a couple, and I would kind of come back and like start at the beginning and like reread them and then read some more. And it took me a while. Like I didn't finish this book until like yesterday, pretty much. And even then, like I went on a trip, and so I had a ton of time. And so yesterday and the day before that, I read I completely reread the entire book. And the stories are not that long, but I found that kind of rereading kind of helped to reinforce. And like every time I would read them, like it would make more and more sense. And so like now, like I read these stories, and there are some stories where I know like basically every word except for like one or two. And the understanding is like totally there. Like I just like read the sentences and I get it, right? Like I'm not doing any translating in my head. I'm just like reading. Feels amazing. Feels awesome. This is a pretty good level for me. It's pretty simple, but great place to start. And uh, man, it's crazy. I finished this. It's awesome. Feels really, really good. Uh, so I think with this one, um, again, kind of doing it in stages was interesting. It was very hard for me to like kind of read this for a long time until I was kind of on my trip and like was on basically a bus ride, and I had a really long bus ride, and I just kind of grinded out like 75% of this book in like 2 hours. And that was because like, I'd already read, the first like half pretty much. So it was rereading, but that was interesting. But this was a good book. Feels great to finish it. And yeah. So the next thing that I did a lot this month was this guy, Taeung Sim. Taeung Sim. And he makes these comprehensible input Korean videos, and they're mostly gaming. And I found these to be very entertaining and also a perfect level for me. So I've been watching like the Unpacking series. I watched the Milo and the Magpie series. I watched the White Door series, and these are great. They're nice because they're like 20 to 30, 40 minutes, and they're great to just like I wake up and I'll watch one, or I'll watch one before I go to bed. And some of them don't have subtitles, which kind of sucks. But the ones that do, it's great. And again, perfect level. The guy is an awesome teacher, and it's great content. He kind of like says, uh, uses pretty simple words, speaks pretty slowly, but still, um, like I find I can fully like keep up with what is happening, but still there's like a lot to learn. So I find this is a perfect level. And you know, kind of Refold has talked about, and I talked about this in the very first video, of like reaching a point of when the language starts to become fun. And I feel like I'm at the point of understanding with like this level of content where I like just watch it like willingly, right? Like it's interesting and I can keep up and I'm learning. And that's like the goal, right? And so when I get to that level with native content, that will be awesome, right? Like when I can watch the K-pop videos, because when I watch the K-pop videos now, like I literally have no clue what's happening, right? Like I see a word or a sentence like every so often, but these, like, I'm understanding most of what's happening. So when I reach that level with native stuff, that'll be cool. So yeah, this content was great. I wrote some notes about eliminating distractions. Uh, so when I was doing most of the TTMIK reading, I was doing it on my computer, and I think that's really hard. I think you're just kind of setting yourself up to kind of click away or look stuff up too often. And like I said, the reason I was able to really grind this out was I put the PDF on my iPad, and I just was on a bus ride for like 2 hours, and I just read through it. And that was much more efficient. I also got an e-reader, and I'm putting the EPUBs I have on that. So I think that will also be a useful tool to kind of eliminate distractions, right? Now on your phone, you can just pull out your e-reader and read. I also made a conscious attempt to look stuff up less often. I found last month when I was looking at some of the videos, reading some of the books, I would just like look up everything constantly. And, I watched this video from Refold. I forgot which one, but they talked about, um, kind of restrict yourself, right? Because it kind of really interrupts the flow of your immersion if you're looking stuff up all the time. And also, if you kind of limit yourself to like one dictionary lookup for like 10 minutes, you're only going to look up the one word that like kept coming up during those 10 minutes. And so if you just keep doing the most common words, right? Like you're not going to remember every word you look up if you look up every word. But if you look up the word you heard like 10 times in a 10-minute segment, you're probably going to remember what that word was because you saw it a bunch in context. So, yeah. And then also with Migaku, something I noticed when watching videos with the Migaku subtitle highlighting was I found it kind of distracting. Like I actually turned it off. Yeah, that was just an interesting observation. As for the podcasts, I have really struggled to find time to watch or listen to podcasts since school got out. Just because I'm like not really ever at a point where like I would listen to the podcast kind of on the way home or passing through the hallways. But now that school's out, I just don't have those kind of periods where I'm kind of passively listening to something. Especially because like when I'm doing work at home, I can't like put my attention to listening. Like, and I don't think the passive immersion, just like having it in the background, like if I'm not consciously thinking about it, I think the level of what you're getting out of it really drops off. But when I'll like walk the dog and I'll do the talk to me in 100% Korean. And these, I don't know if these are the ones, but they have a podcast for this. And I think they call it like Iyagi time or something. And it just, I kind of like this a bit more because it's more of a conversation. Where Tyone is just like her monologuing, just a little bit different. But the main thing this month was really, really tangible progress in the immersion department. I mean, again, I went from like barely understanding the first story to finishing this whole book comfortably, and that felt really, really good. Especially like, man, rereading these first kind of 10 to 15 stories. Like, I remember the first time I read them, I was like, holy, like, this is crazy. And now I just read them and I just know it, which is awesome. Very motivating. So what are my goals for next month? My goals with the active immersion are to be a bit more consistent. I think some days I was a little bit busy or a little bit lazy and I didn't reach the kind of full hour that I'm going for. And I mean, I think, when people talk about doing an hour, like I always do my Anki, that's like 20 minutes, right? And I think it's like, I don't know. I think I could immerse a little bit more, be a bit more consistent. I definitely want to finish some of these gaming playlists. So, again, not all of them have subtitles, which has kind of put me off. But I definitely want to finish unpacking, and I'm just going to try to get through some of these. I'm a little bit hesitant with Stardew Valley because honestly, I want to play Stardew Valley. Like I own the game, but I've owned the game for a while. I don't think I'm ever playing that, so at least it can go for immersion. As for reading, I want to get a sizable chunk, if not finish Yansei 1. And the thing with Yansei is it's like a whole like textbook, but the only value, or so I'm told, is where do they start? Is you just read like these stories. Like I could probably read this right now. 여기는 우리 교식입니다. 우리 교식의 책상 위자 what was that? 칠판 시계가 있습니다. 이것은 제 가방입니다. 제 가방은 큽니다. 제 가방에 책, 콘책, 사전이 있습니다. So like, yeah, I'd say this is a good level. I mean, some of these earlier ones probably fully understand, but basically these little stories, and 90% of the textbook, again, there's like this little story for like 1 for 5 pages. So I think I could totally finish all of Yansei 1. So that's the goal. I can probably honestly get a bit in Yansei 2, so we'll see. And then I think there is some level of like, if the content starts to become comfortable, it means something is wrong, right? Like you have to keep pushing yourself or else you will stop improving. Like there's like a lot of that kind of deep mindset stuff that can apply to a lot of things in life. But I definitely think for language learning, that's the truth, right? If you stick with beginner content, you're gonna max out at the beginner level. So I think it's awesome that I'm enjoying beginner content. And I still think there's stuff to learn from these videos, right? Like it's not like I understand every single word, but I do think there's some level of kind of moving to having like at least some native content every day, and eventually kind of leaning off the beginner content into content for natives. But yeah, so that was immersion. Let's talk about grammar. So where I was at last month was I had the Notion guide, just kind of some basic stuff, and I had watched a lot of random YT videos. So this month I didn't do a lot of grammar. So what I did do was I got to like halfway through level 3 of Talk to Me in Korean, and I rewatched some of the Billy playlist. I rewatched a bunch of these, and I've watched a bunch of, these are great because they're short, and just like you just kind of forget stuff, and just like watching it again, it's super short, just kind of helps remind you. I think the reason I stopped working on this was because it stopped being a barrier. And the reason for that is because my immersion is still relatively simple, right? Like the grammar to understand every sentence in this TTMIK book, I know. Like just full stop. I know all of the grammar to understand this book. And so that's why I think grammar kind of stopped becoming interesting, was because I stopped having places where I didn't understand because of the grammar. But that's just a function of my content not being hard enough. So my goal for next month with grammar is to go through all of the Talk to Me in Korean. I have to log, whatever. Go through all the Talk to Me in Korean levels. And especially near the later levels, I'm probably just going to be reading it, being like, okay, that's cool. I'm totally going to forget this, and then forget it. And that's okay. I just want to see it and move on. And I'm going to try to just get through, I think there's 10. Just kind of get through all 10. And then I'm going to go through the Notion guide and assess all the grammar points. And I think I'm going to do it on like a known, kind of know, seen and unseen. So known is I have the concept fully mastered. Kind of known is I have like a medium grasp of it. Seen is I've seen it and I can recognize it, but I don't really understand it all that much. And unseen is I've literally never seen this grammar form before. And yeah, but again, just kind of tells me that the content I'm consuming should be a bit harder if not struggling with grammar. Or maybe not. Maybe I think a lot of the cases, all of the, it's just the same with vocab, right? Like you learn the most common vocab that vocab's used everywhere. You learn the most common grammar, of course, it's going to be used everywhere. But yeah, so we're just going to finish TTMIK next month. On to vocab. So let's open up Anki. So at last month, I was at 255 learning, 231 young, and 27 mature. And this month, we are at collection, 157 learning, 359 young, and 671 mature. So we had 650 cards become mature this month. Pretty cool. And also seeing this pie chart become like blue is like almost the minority now. Kind of crazy. So I finished the retro deck a couple days ago. And now let me look. We can look at the reviews per day. You can see like my reviews per day are actually like some of the lowest they've been. And again, this is because, well, first of all, I don't know, maybe, I don't know. I think I reached a point where a lot of the cards, there's a lot of overlap, right, between the two decks. So like some of them I'd seen before. But also, yeah, so after the refold stopped, I went from, so I was doing 10 of each, and I'm moving refold up to 15 a day. I think 20 a day is a lot with no overlap, so I'm just doing 15 a day now for new cards. And I only have 350 left, so it says 24 days. So we should finish refold KO1K next month, which is pretty exciting. And I feel pretty good on vocab. You can see, look at that streak. Perfect. I think it's interesting because a lot of cards went from learning to mature, or like young to mature this month. It's interesting looking at the reviews. Like these are all the mature cards, and I like haven't hit these. So it'll be interesting to see what happens when I start hitting these. If we look at the retention rates, they're actually pretty good. So all the mature ones so far, I've only had 18, but I've had 100%. And with the young cards, so these are cards that I've seen 1 day, like 2 days, 3 days, 7 days, 15 days, I think. So after I've seen them that many times, I'm getting them right 92% of the time, which is very, very good. Very happy with that. As for sentence mining, I've been using Migaku, and man, Migaku is so cool. It's so cool. Like you're just watching your video and you see a one target sentence, and it is one click to make a card that's, let me pull it up. That's like this, right? And on the back it has audio, it has a picture, it has the definition, and it's literally a single click to make a card of this high quality. And it's awesome. So you can see I did a good amount of sentence mining. You know, I think we can look. There's like 40 cards in here. And the reason I kind of stopped was because it just kind of wasn't worth it, because I was making cards. Like all the words that I don't know at this point are like so common that they're going to be in this KO1K deck anyway. And I felt like just kind of wasn't worth my time at this point until I finished K1K. But when I finished K1K, sentence mining is awesome. Really excited to keep working on that. The other thing with vocab was I kind of learned the numbers this month. I would say I think I could definitely have like a better grasp. Like I don't think they're really ingrained in my brain, but I think I talked about that last month. So I kind of learned the numbers, kind of learned the days of the week, kind of learned the months. But that's definitely something to work on. So I think I'd already kind of talked about it, but goal for next month is finish K1K. And that should be pretty exciting. So that's pretty much all I have. As for the long-term plan, Refold, they have this video where they talk about kind of Ben's journey in Czech, and he kind of lays out his plan. And I thought this was interesting, so I made a spreadsheet. Looks like this. So his is 2 years long, mine is just 1 year long, because I think if you remember back to the very first video, I talked about how my goal is, the fluency stuff, very long way off. I don't even want to think about it. My goal is to get to the fun point, which is like 4,000 to 5,000 words, 500 hours of immersion, and some grammar. And so I think this is where I'm at. So we're at the first 100 days at an hour a day, second 100 days at 1.5 hours a day, and the final at 2 hours. But I think if this goes down to 1.5, I still have 500 hours, yeah. And then I think we're just going to be basically at 15 words a day the whole time. And that seems like a pretty good plan, honestly. And yeah. You know, Refold, they have some videos about tracking. There's some tool. I think I have it bookmarked somewhere, or maybe I got rid of it. There's like habit tracking apps and there's time tracking apps. And I remember back when I was doing Japanese, I found those very stressful. It felt like I was like clocking in and out of work when I was doing my immersion. And so, although those are very useful, especially for having an accurate number of the amount of hours you've immersed, I don't think I will be doing that. I think it will either like kill my mentality or just like I just don't like it. And so, will that mean that some days I'm probably not reaching the full hour? Yeah, but it is what it is. And I still think I'm doing some immersion, which is great, and I'm making progress, which is awesome. And could I be going faster? Yeah, but I don't want to burn out, so it is what it is. But man, I feel really good about this month. Again, the progress has been awesome, and it's very exciting. And I'm excited to see what comes in this next month. And I hope you guys have been enjoying the videos if you've been following along. I know we got 1 subscriber, which is awesome. So thank you, the 1 subscriber. I would shout you out by name, but I don't know if you'd be comfortable with that. So I'm just going to say thank you to you. And maybe we'll get more after this video. So we'll see. I look forward to seeing you guys again in a month. Thank you so much for watching. And again, this has been Reimmerse. I'll see you next time.